I noticed like when you hit go live, there's like an option that says like intro video. Maybe we should do like an intro video.
Yeah, that's probably what Chase has set up for Get With The Programming.
Yeah.
It is Thursday, November 14th. I am in Belgrade. Patrick's back in Germany, and we have Belgrade Games starting tomorrow. It's a 3-day competition here in the capital of Serbia. We got a lot of athletes, hundreds of athletes in a few dozen different divisions that will be competing, and we will be streaming the elite division on B.Friendly Fitness. There's 14 women and I think 36 men that are in the division currently, in those divisions currently. And they'll basically have 2 events each day. 5 of the 6 events have been announced. And all the athletes checked in this afternoon. I was over at the arena prior to this. Got a chance to see most of the athletes, at least the ones that I know or have met on the road, and probably most of the ones that you guys will know in terms of the biggest names that are competing here this weekend, of which there are quite a few. So we're gonna. I usually love either the competition organizer or programmer or director, or whatever they call themselves for the events on for these. There are a lot of people that are involved with making this competition run here in Serbia, and a lot of people that are really proud of what they've been able to put together. My understanding is it's not only the biggest competition in Serbia in terms of the scope of what they're doing this weekend, but also probably in the Balkan region. There's competitions of this size that have happened in Greece and in Turkey, but for these countries kind of in between there, this is a pretty big one. And there's a lot of athletes from Greece and Turkey that have also come here. Most of those competition organizer people are still working at the arena, and so we couldn't really get some of them to come on tonight. But Patrick and I are going to do a little run through just about what this weekend means for Serbia, for the Balkan region, Europe, and then the global community. And then we'll take a look at the article that we published earlier today that kind of just runs through the need to know for the weekend in terms of what's going on, who's competing, what the workouts look like, and set you guys up for what you can expect from a competition perspective over the next 3 days.
Sorry, trying to get all this stuff. I don't know. My internet is all messed up.
Well, pull up what you can when you can. I'll tell you guys this, because I had conversations with a few different people there, and you guys will see coming out over the course of the weekend that there is a Belgrade Game announced that this is going to be a commemorative or memorial competition in honor of Lazar. And there's definitely some things about the, is this the Belgrade Games live? This is the preview for the Belgrade Games. And yes, and the streams will be happening over the next 3 days. Hi, Valeria. SPM. Thank you, man. Appreciate all the coverage. He was out at Rogue last week. I don't think we met. I did meet Sevon's dog, however. Did I tell you about that story?
No.
I was getting breakfast at the hotel, and this guy next to me just goes, "Woof woof."
Okay, that's it. That's all he said.
And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Do you know who I am?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh." So anyway, SPM, thank you, brother, for all the support. This question kind of came up, with a few of the people I was talking to about how much of this weekend is going to be competition, how much of this weekend is going to be, memorial and tribute, and where's the line in between. And I think based on everything I've seen and the athletes that I spoke to today, there's a pretty good balance there. I mean, there's still some significant prize money on the line. There's still some very elite athletes that are competing here, and a pretty competitive. I think both of the fields are rather competitive, meaning there's not like an obvious winner on either side, and even the podiums are definitely up for grabs. There'll be people coming in and out of the final heat, especially on the men's field that has a little bit more depth. And at the same time, there's going to be some, things that are in place for Lazar's remembrance that you certainly will not be able to ignore. And I do want to give the competition organizers some credit for, Luca is planning to compete here. I know that's a big question that a lot of people have. and they were, really communicative with him ahead of time, sharing with him what the plans were to honor his brother and make sure that he had a chance to see some of those things before having to deal with it for the first time in a public setting, which I think is tremendously respectful of them to do that. So I don't know, Patrick, did you have any kind of general questions you wanted to ask me? I spent most of the afternoon over there before we kind of dive into some specifics.
I mean, you were there for check-in. You said there's a couple athletes that we'll go over that didn't make it to check-in and withdrew or whatever. But you said that how did the athletes who are there that, I mean, we saw someone like Matilda Garnas and we saw Jackie. Those are Elisa Fugliano. When you talk to them, what was their general just feel? I mean, again, they're here to honor him, and obviously, from what I heard talking to some of the organizers or some of the people at Rogue, that they have a very beautiful tribute at the beginning to kind of kick it off, very similar to what Rogue had. Well, I mean, I don't know what they're going to throw, but we saw what Rogue did, which was very emotional. I wasn't prepared for that. I was standing behind you. I don't know if you knew of that or if you were prepared for it. I didn't get to talk to you about that, but I noticed that, a couple other athletes, they kind of wear their heart to sleeve. Chandler put out a really beautiful post on Veterans Day, but it was more of him honoring Lazar and what his friendship meant to him. But yeah, how's the general feeling? What's the vibe you're getting from the athletes that checked in, especially the ones that we know took it hard?
But varied levels of conversation about that topic. Sometimes, words aren't really needed. You can just kind of feel it in a hug or in their voice, like, good to see you, good to have you here, thanks for being here, type of things, where the message is kind of unwritten. And I spoke to one athlete, and they're not feeling their best, and I had known about that, and I mentioned it, and their response was just, "I'm here for one reason." So I think that is definitely, that's a real thing for these athletes, is that this is more than a competition for them, like you said, and how they express that will change. But overall, it was just really good to see a lot of them. You think we got to see Matilda and Henrik, obviously, in Norway a couple of weeks ago. But for, it's the first time I've seen Moritz, and it was great to see him and to catch up with him a little bit. It's the first time I've seen Elisa. She's not a big talker necessarily, but the few things that she said, it was really just warm and nice to see her. And then, on the other side, there's a bunch of athletes who aren't games level athletes, aren't semifinal level athletes, that I've seen at the competitions in Turkey and Greece and Italy that I've gone to. And it was just nice to catch up with them a little bit. I would say that, the general feeling, there's definitely a little layer of somberness, but the venue is really nice. It's an intimate and intense setting. I think in some ways it reminds me of Rogue in that the floor is really well lit and the stands are kind of in the dark. So it has that kind of spotlight feel to it that I think, I think I heard Jeff Adler talking about that one day, maybe in the breakfast or something, that when you're out on the floor, you can't really see, there's people out there, but you're just kind of looking into the darkness, but on the floor that everybody can see you. So I think it's going to be a very similar feel for that, which would be cool for the athletes of all divisions. So, there's some Serbian people that I got to meet in September when I was here through some of the training and coaching that I did at a few different gyms that are competing in various divisions, from advanced to scaled to teams to masters. And in some cases they said, I'm doing this for the same reasons, more or less, that, Matilda or Elisa or Moritz would be, which is for Lazar. The local athletes were really excited because Lazar and Luca were very much involved in this competition in the run up to it. They both announced that they were going to compete here. They did the qualifier workout together at Matador Gym, which is one of the main promoters and supporters of this competition. And that was also encouraging for a lot of the athletes to participate in something that they knew those guys were going to be a part of. They may not be able to compete against them or enter into the same division, but to take the same floor. I talked to 2 girls today. One's in advanced, one's in masters, who their first coaches were Lazar and Luca at a gym in Novi Sad, and they knew him personally. They knew him well. They see Luca in Novi Sad, every so often. And that's what they said, is that we are doing this because they were doing it. And it's really cool for us to be able to compete on the same floor in the same venue as them.
You said you ran to Luca as you were leaving. How's he feeling? I mean, is he excited about competing? Because if you think about it, he hasn't really competed since the French Throwdown, and where some of these other athletes, they've either competed at the games or competed since the games. Whether it be Jackie, Morris, someone like that, kind of getting their legs underneath. This will be Luca's first competition back, and what looks like will be the typical Luca tour. Dubai. What's them called? What's the other competition? Abu Dhabi. Storm games. Yeah, it looks like he's going back on that circuit that he typically does. So it looks like he's getting back to some maybe normalcy, but yeah.
I think that his primary focus is Dubai, and that he wanted to do a competition prior to that. And I think that there's an element of that, of just, competing is for a professional athlete in general, competing is emotional and mental stress. That's different than training is. And obviously with every personal things, that he's very aware of that. So I think he's doing this as kind of three different things. One is for the Serbian Balkan community of fitness. 2 is to give himself an opportunity to experience any unprecedented or unusual emotions that might come along with competing for the first time. And 3 is, he said to me today, it's actually a pretty good field. Like, in every workout, I'm going to be tested against guys that can potentially beat me, and I'm not guaranteed to win this. So I have, I'm going to get the chance to kind of check in and see where my fitness is before final preparations for Dubai. So I think he's very aware and conscious of why he's doing this, and that there's, kind of a multifaceted explanation for it.
Lynn had
about the qualifiers. So yeah, he did smash the Dubai qualifiers. He did actually tell me that, doing the qualifiers, that is an element of competing for him. And he said, I certainly felt, some emotions doing that, but it's also different competing live. So I would say yes and no. And yes and no. Yeah, happy to see him posting his training again. He's got actually a buddy of his that he's been training with is competing in the team division here. It's a very, very strong guy that I was, Dino, that I was able to meet today. And it's great for him to have some guys like that he can just, put the head down and get some good training in. And yeah, of course, this is definitely true. AstroSurf.
Yeah, that's about it. I mean, like I said, you mentioned a competition floor. They had the athlete briefing today, which is I thought it was really cool. And I know other competitions have done this where they've kind of like posted the athlete briefing afterwards. One for those who can't make it in because of traveling, and also just kind of, something to refer to afterwards. Like if you went to the meeting, you missed something, or you want to get clarity on something, you can always go back there. So it's almost like it's just like a statement of record. And I think that's a cool thing. I think more competitions should do that, where they post stuff like that, where they post the athlete briefing. It's so funny because like at Rogue, the athlete briefing, it's like so private, even though the competition is out there. I mean, we know what's going to happen. They weren't even letting the Buttery Bros, who were like hired to do the behind the scenes, go back there during athlete briefing. So it was like, then why even, that's not really behind the scenes then. But yeah, but yeah, let's go, if you don't mind. Let's just go right into it. You wrote an article, a preview on it. For whatever reason, it's not letting me load the picture, but it does let me reload the text. So we will.
Oh man, that's too bad. The picture you put together there was really, really nice.
Yeah, unless you can pull it up. I mean, I don't know. So, but
Well, we'll see. It's a little, not the best internet, not the worst that I've ever had. Yeah, but just like, like you're saying, this is the end of a 4 week stop that we've had in Europe. Rogue was a huge success, I think, for Europe last week. The competitions in Spain and Norway were really good, but this has kind of been earmarked on the calendar since they postponed it as something that we've been looking forward to, especially after I had the chance to come here in September and meet with the people who are responsible for creating this and making this possible. And it's, like I said, it's a big effort from a lot of different entities here to pull something like this off in this country. Can we scroll down to either like the athletes or something?
sure. Yep, schedule. Great.
Well, I do want to say this actually. If you guys are looking for the leaderboard, it's on the Circle 21 app, which is not the normal place that maybe you're used to looking for things. It does host a lot of competitions in Europe. The app is really well organized and easy to use. So is the website. So if you search Circle 21 or Circle 21 app Belgrade Games, you'll be able to find it really easily. They have the schedule already posted for the first 2 days of competitions. The first 5 workouts are all announced and posted. And that's just like really easy for users, spectators, coaches, athletes, all to plan for. So check out Circle 21 if you want to see all the details that are going on this weekend. As we mentioned, there are 14 women, and cool. I mean, they're from 11 different countries, the 14 women that are signed up. So that's pretty awesome. That I would say, like, the headliners are Fuliano, Dahlstrom, Garnis, and Salmonson-Hellman in terms of the CrossFit Games athletes from past years and throughout their career. And the rankings that Barkley pulls for all of this are on the right there that you can see.
Yeah, explain those rankings again. Can you explain those rankings or what they serve and how that ranking, how it adds up to this field, or what's that particular number mean?
This is the rating that you're seeing on the right is relative to the worldwide population. We're pulling this from a database that has over 400 competitions and over about 40,000 athletes in it. It does factor in things like the open, quarterfinals, semifinals, and the games, but it also factors in off-season competitions, big and small. As long as we have the data for the competition and there are a couple relevant athletes in the field, then we'll add it to the database. Barkley adds them over time. So I'm regularly sending him competitions. For example, this week there's Belgrade Games and there's Elephant. Both of those have enough relevant athletes in it that we'll enter it into the database. And then the rating is on a Madden rating scale from 0 to 99. So 99 is the maximum that any athletes can get. And then they scale down from there. If you have a rating that's over 90, that means that you're probably qualifying for the games more than once in the last 2 years, and or doing fairly well in off-season competitions that have good athletes in it, because the strength of the field that you compete against and your placement in that field both factor into the equation. So it's difficult to do that because it's hard to say, like, oh, Brian's in this field. Is Brian really good? Well, why is he really good? Because he competed against these athletes. But before did he have a good rating before he got there? So we had to do a lot of working on that over the years to see how to figure it out. And now we have a system that I think approximates it fairly well. Barkley Dale on Instagram, if you guys haven't followed him, he will put these things out periodically so you can see the rating systems, but that's what we're pulling here and that's what we're using. So it's the last 2 years of relevant data for these athletes.
Yeah, so I guess the best way to describe it is like you said earlier, is like Madden rankings. based on those rankings, that's how we kind of tier them. Or these are, by all means, these aren't predictions on who you think are going to win. These are just, they're in order by their rating. But the rating basically can, if you put it from top to bottom, it almost turns into almost a ranking or prediction. But I think there's been a number of times where I think the rating you've ranked, and I've done it, where we've predicted something over the rating based on trends or the type of competition it is, So
yeah, a really good example is Christiana Babe. She's down there at 74. She's near the bottom of this rating scale, and you may not have heard of her, but she actually missed semifinals this year in Europe by 1 spot. She was 41st. They took 40. She also competed at Athens Throwdown, so if you were watching her coverage of Athens Throwdown, then you would have seen her there. And she had a couple of good performances there, and she ended up taking 4th place. And it was a pretty big field. So we have some actual competition data for it. But if you compare it to someone like Orr Cohen is qualifying for semifinals, but in a different region. She's qualifying in Asia, where the barrier to entry is lower. Like Christina's quarterfinals performance would score better than Orr's, but it doesn't get her into the quarterfinals in Europe, or to semifinals in Europe, and Orr does. So Orr will then get a data point, and even though it's against a less competitive field in Asia, it still is going to affect her rating in a way that obviously Babe won't get because she didn't compete at the semifinal in Europe.
So let's start off with the top one, number 91, Lisa Fuliano, who is she's an interesting athlete in terms of she qualified for the first time in 21, kind of came out of nowhere, and she actually did really well in the workout. It was the skills workout that Boz with the crisscross
speed skill medley.
Yeah, the medley. She did very well in that. Sorry, it's been a long day, and but so bear with me here. But did really well in that, and then she's known. A lot of people. She suffers from I believe it's like arthritis, like some really bad arthritis, and it's one of those things where she doesn't know if she can compete sometimes. And but it seems like the last couple of years she's gotten stronger, and actually, hopefully, she's been able to control that. And this year she was very impressive, actually, in semifinals, where she actually won the speed ladder over Laura Horvath of all people. And she looked really good coming into the games, and probably one of those athletes who you would think highly skilled. Strength is very underrated. What do you think? Do you think she is the favorite in this competition?
So I'm pretty sure they're using the scoring system of the open style, which is 1 up to, whatever, 14 in this case for the women. Maybe 13, actually. I think Matilda Spahn, who may not have shown up or may not have been able to come. But either way, and so, the scoring system obviously matters. Also, the total number of athletes in the field will matter a little bit. But I think I would say on paper she's the favorite. I mean, she's some of the other events that she's done well at the game. She actually did pretty well on the Olympic total. They have a max clean here, so that could be good for her. She did really well on Helena, which is just kind of a general kind of a MWG style. And inverted medley, she also got second on. I don't know if that was the one you were thinking of, but this was in the year that she took 20th, which was in 2023.
In a rookie
year,
yeah.
No, that was her second year. She did much. She did much better relative to the field in her second year. She's qualified the last 3 years. She didn't compete this year. So she's got some different skill sets, but I would say that on the long stuff, maybe not as good. And we have that long monostructural test tomorrow morning. So let's see how she comes out of the gate. I think that she can do fairly well on the rest of the test, potentially even win event number 2 and 5, I think, are events that she has a chance to win. And, a couple wins, even if you have a middle finish on one of them, probably against this field will be pretty good. I think that the biggest challenger to her, is probably Matilda Garnis after what we saw in
Yes,
in
Norway.
Norway. But again, that's not typically that. Those are the things there's two kind of longer workouts here. There's a chipper, and then there's there's two kind of chippers, a machine chipper, and then like a rebound chipper, a down and back chipper on Friday and Saturday to start the days. And she's been doing almost exclusively team competitions. And the thing that's like rarely tested in a team competition is a long grinding individual effort where you're doing that with a team, in synchro with someone, and with your whole team, or some kind of relay format. So I'm curious to see how that goes, because as good as her and Henrik looked, still could lean on each other, and anybody else could be, they also could have needed to have two people that were going to be really good at all the team stuff. So I would say that Fuliano and Garnis are the easy picks for the favorites here, and probably are. But there's a few athletes in this field for women that are like huge unknowns coming into it for a variety of different reasons as well. And some of them have some pretty good credentials in their past.
Well, I think one of them you're referring to is Jacqueline Dahlstrom. I was able to see her at German Throwdown. You were able to see her at Bilboa for the Bash Championships. Both of those, she probably came in as maybe the favorite, and both of those she didn't finish top of the leaderboard. She had good workouts, and then she had workouts that she just wasn't bad. Now, granted, when the German Throwdown, she literally got an invite 2 days before and showed up, competed, hadn't done anything since the games. And as you know, she withdrew from the games due to the passing of her friend, Lazar. And, it showed in some workouts. She said it was a rope climbing workout and she failed a rope climb. And she said she can't remember the last time she failed a rope climb, a legless rope climb. And that should have been a workout that she should have been really good at. So I think she used the German Throwdown as a way to kind of like gauge where her fitness is. And then I guess kind of the Bass is this kind of the same thing. Maybe a little bit tougher field at Bass. But what did you see at Bass that makes you think that she isn't one of the top two athletes in this field?
Not so much what I saw is just talking to her is, I think she's in a similar spot as a lot of people, not just competitive athletes, that when you come back from this year's CrossFit Games and you have to deal with the reality of what happened, that it can really, you could do one of two things as a human being, and that's having an emotional response to that. You could bury it away and hide from it and run away and kind of push it down, or you could accept that it happened, allow yourself to feel some things, and reevaluate what you want to do with your life going forward. And that if you choose that second one, that can look a lot of different ways. I feel like Jacqueline's done that to some extent, and I feel like in part of doing that she's been exploring some other things in her life that can be balancing to her life to a certain extent. And we understand that they're like, to be the best, to be elite, to be excellent, you have to sacrifice balance. You have to be pretty specific and disciplined in some areas. I think that she's leaned into some stuff that's really, really valuable for her personally. I think she's told me she's been doing some horseback riding, for example, which is awesome. Like, people go for horses can be very therapeutic, and people will take retreats to go and interact with horses at these like getaway centers. So she's doing some of that I bet is amazing for her on a personal level. And if it causes a little bit of a hit to her professional excellence in competition, I don't think that's a stress for her at all. She still is extremely competitive, and when she shows up to compete, I mean, she's going to put out a phenomenal effort and try to do her best. But if you're going against somebody who's completely focused on training and competing, and you're not, you can still be good, but you're probably not going to be at your best. And then that might cause you to finish a few spots lower on the leaderboard. So that's kind of where I think that she's at. And she's just someone I've had a chance to talk to. I bet you there's a lot of other athletes that are in a similar place that we just haven't had the chance to talk to.
Do you think there's a lot of athletes in this field riding horses? Is that what you mean? Well, I did I talked to Jackie, and again, especially an athlete for caliber, finishing second at German Throwdown, she wasn't upset with herself. She was like, she was just like, it was a last minute thing, no expectations. But this will be her third competition in 6 weeks. to kind of put it in perspective.
She's not the only one in this field that's doing a lot of competitions in a short amount of time. Syria Meha there, kind of middle of the pack from Albania. If you're familiar, if you say, I think I remember that name. She was at semifinals this year, and she competed there for the first time. This will be her third competition in the last month, I think. And she competed against Kristina Vasic, actually, who's the fittest woman from Serbia. It's maybe one of the top 2 fittest women from Serbia, but she's the only Serbian in this field. Excuse me, at Fort Fight, which is another Serbian competition a couple of weeks ago. And Syria's been traveling. She was actually on my flight over from London as she was over there doing some training with some friends, I think. And, there are these athletes that are definitely doing quite a few off-season competitions this year. And I think that it's similar to what we were talking about with Jacqueline, as that people are trying to figure out what they're doing, figure out what they want to do, figure out where they're going from here. And for some of them, it's getting it in the gym and kind of training through that, or getting into competitions and kind of trying to re-find the joy, the spark, or to see if that even still exists. But Syria is a really interesting woman in general. I think she's also studying to become a doctor. And if you're good enough to make the semifinals in Europe as an athlete, and you're in school to become a doctor of some kind, the amount of discipline and dedication you have to either one of those things is extremely high. To do both at the same time, I mean, it's pretty impressive.
Let's talk about the 2 women from Sweden. Two different, I think, in terms of skill level. Both of them been to. I believe Madeline's been on a team, correct? On the game.
She was
on the team.
I don't think so. She was at semifinals 2 years ago in Germany. She took 18th there, and I took very big notice of her in that performance, because she was one of 2 or 3 athletes in Europe that year that really, really caught me off by doing as well as she did. And that was that 60-person semifinal field. It had a very much a European championship vibe to it. I would say, to some extent, even more than French Throwdown, because there was more athletes, more countries represented. And she's had some ups and downs since then, including some injuries. She had a surgery last spring, and she's just now getting back into competition. This is the biggest competition that she's done since then. She's Henrik Wilhelmer is her coach, and they are people that I see on the road quite frequently. They were in Norway. She did not compete there. He was working there, and so I've been talking to them, and they know that Madeline has a chance to podium in this field, but they also don't know necessarily where her fitness is at coming back from the surgery and getting back into competition. So it seems like her strength is back. It seems like some of the dynamic stuff that she needs is back from conversations with them. And I would say she's probably the biggest wild card in the field, because if she's competing at the level that she was 2 years ago at semifinals or beyond that, she definitely could podium here. But if there's things that are lingering from that surgery that she's not quite competition ready, then she won't be relevant in the podium conversation at all. So she's a wild card, but definitely someone that, probably the top girls in the field are all aware of what I just said. And so they're going to be really watching, maybe not on the first workout with machines and double unders, but once they get to the second workout where they have some overhead walking lunges with dumbbells, and then they get to workouts with high volume of wall balls, they'll be waiting and then the heavy clean, then they'll really start to see whether she's going to factor in on Sunday or not.
Well, one of those women that probably knows her and is probably well aware of her is Camilla, who we've gotten to know, we've seen, very talented, obviously. Did you get a chance to talk to her today, and where's she at?
I spoke to her just very briefly. I've been really trying to find a way to watch the reality TV series that she's a part of. And she did send me some information of how to do it. I think I'm going to wait till December, January when I'm back home and see if I can just watch the whole thing. So I went up to her and I was like, "Oh, have I seen you on TV? Are you a TV star?" Just, messing with her. And we had just a brief conversation, but she was one of the last athletes to check in right before the briefing was going to start. So we didn't speak too much, but from earlier conversations this offseason, I know that, she's got a lot going on. She's a mom now. She did do that TV series. She's getting back into, training and competing a little bit. And I don't know for sure how well she's going to do, but if she ends up in the top 3 here, it wouldn't surprise me. She's like you said, she's an incredible athlete, very experienced athlete, and when she's good, she's really good. She was, she did decent last year in Dubai, 11th place, beat Dahlstrom, and that was, I feel like she should be fitter than that by now. So, yeah, she's definitely a threat.
I believe she was one of the athletes that suffered a penalty in quarterfinals, and that's why she didn't compete in the semis.
Yeah, and it was, and I think, like most of those athletes of that caliber that did, it was a bummer because I was excited to see just how good she'd gotten after that. That Dubai performance was actually pretty good, in my opinion, relative to what she'd been doing prior to that. And to give her that kind of confidence and then go through another 5-6 months leading the semis, I thought she would have had, a great chance to be in the top 20 with an outside chance to take one of the game spots. And we never got to see it.
Yeah. Another athlete I want to kind of talk to is she's a young athlete. She competed. We talked about briefly when she did double trouble with our fellow Polish athlete that's on the men's side that everyone kind of know. It's Julia Blaszczowska. Did I say that? Blaszczowska.
I mean, I've covered a lot of events she's in, and it's one of the harder names to say. Yes, Blaszczowska.
Blaszczowska, who now, I mean, has a chance of being the fittest this year at being the fittest woman in Poland.
Yeah, she actually was last year for the first time in her career. She'd been in the top 5 for 5 years in a row or something like that, and finally did kind of break through to get that open rank. She may have got a penalty in quarterfinals also, because after being in the top 46 for 3 consecutive years, she finished 110th in the quarterfinals this year. And she'd made 3 consecutive semifinals. The first one was online. She was at Strength in Depth, and then she was at the Europe semifinal in Germany in 2023. She does compete in some other off-season events. She was in Pamplona with us last year as well. She was 9th place there. Like you mentioned, she podiumed at Double Trouble with Braun. And she's really small. She's really feisty. She's always constantly working on the weaknesses, but she's got some events that she can do quite well in. And I'll be curious to see, because she had missed out on the Dubai qualifier by 1 spot. But since Gabby won't be able to compete there, she may get a backfill. So we might get to see her again in a few weeks from now in Dubai. I'll have to ask her.
Yeah, how unfortunate, obviously, but how fitting that, she would replace someone that she looks up to in Gabby, because of that injury. But is there anyone else? I mean, there's a couple athletes there I know we've seen before, especially Greek athletes that you did both. I know Matilda competed at Athens Throwdown, correct?
Yeah, but I don't think she's going to be here.
Okay. All right.
And I already spoke about Christiana Babe. Natalie Borica, she's the fittest woman from Croatia. She won the Eurasia Throwdown that we were at last March, I guess it was. There wasn't any athletes of this caliber in that field on the women's side, so I'm excited to see how she does against some of these women. And Hannah Mullen, I don't know, and I did not meet today. And Maya came right up and said hello to me. Victor was right behind her, Victor Hoffer. So they were also right with Camilla right at the end. So I didn't get a chance to talk to her much, but she seemed very excited and happy to either meet me or to be here. I couldn't tell, but she was smiling.
Probably a little bit of both. I mean, her first elite competition was German throwing this past year, and she really impressed herself. Just missed out on the top 10. It was, former teen athlete, kind of just part of the German, Balkan circuit here. So this is another test for her. And I think with a young athlete like that, especially teen, it's all about getting competition experience. And if you can get competition experience on this caliber of athletes, a caliber of field, and do well like she did at German Throwdown, it's only going to build. For a young athlete, you need that confidence. I think that she's doing all the right things. And I think this is a good test for her. And she has skills. She has it. She just hasn't seen it unfold in an elite competition. So someone to keep an eye out, even though we
No, and the nice thing about this competition actually is that if you are good at specific things, like if you're good on machines, if you got a strong clean, if you're good at, kind of high skill body weight gymnastics, there are some opportunities to excel in those things. And at the same time, if you're not, you can kind of get that check mark and see, okay, how far off am I from where I want to be? And so she'll get to experience that throughout the 3 days of competition.
Yeah. So smaller field of women, I guess 13 women from 11 different countries. Smaller women's field, but very top heavy, very talented field. Let's jump over to men's. Obviously, you said there's roughly around 37. I know, well, probably less than that. There's some athletes that withdrew. Looks like you might have removed them already. Roughly 13 different countries, with Moritz kind of leading the field from there. Moritz has traditionally done really well in European competitions. When he gets to the games, he just it hasn't really transferred over to the games. Moritz actually even does well in Dubai too. Obviously he's had some really great finishes at Dubai as well. But we have Moritz at 92, which is the highest rank out of both the men's and women's field. Moritz.
I think when you look at the men's field here, that the ratings on the screen actually tell a lot of the story. You have Moritz at 92, Luca at 89, Braun at 89, and Alex Catoulis at 88. And the fact that Alex Catoulis is at 88, having never qualified for the games, is kind of telling of how good he is for someone who hasn't made the CrossFit Games. He's had top 5 performances at Dubai in the past. He's very good on these style of competitions around the Mediterranean region, and he has had respectable finishes at semifinals. So even though he doesn't have the same credentials as the other guys do in terms of CrossFit Games qualifications, that's why his rating is right up there. I mean, just for a reference point, since 2021, he's finished 7th and then went to last chance qualifier, was 9th. 2 years in a row, he had the exact same results there. 15th last year at the 60-person semifinal, and 21st this year in the 40-person semifinal. So he's not that far outside of those guys. And we regularly talk about the depth of field in Europe. Obviously, there's been a few guys at the top that are leading the way. And then there's these big, this kind of big group of men behind that are lurking and kind of always battling with each other. This competition actually sets up really, really well for Bronislaw. And even though I would usually say that I would in a 10 event or a CrossFit Games or a Rogue or a Dubai, that I would have a hard time seeing Braun beat Luca or Moritz, when the long event here is primarily on the machines. There's another event that's kind of longer in domain that has a bunch of deadlifts and some chest bar pull-ups in the middle. And then there's a gymnastics test. He's probably going to win the clean event. There's an unknown final still. So it's just a pretty good competition for him. And I do think he's in the mix to potentially win.
Keeping it real, man. I love it. I love it. That just grabbing that name.
I think there are actually 2 athletes from South Africa in the field. I'm not sure if they both checked in today. I didn't see either of them, but Keegan Muir, as you mentioned, and Damien Boats or Botis are both listed as being from South Africa on our database. So that's kind of cool that we got some South Africans in the field.
Yeah. I was something to note, kind of like what Jackie Moritz has done. I believe this will be his 5th competition in 7 weeks. But now included in that was a partner workout he did with Colin Bossard in Switzerland, and he also did a high rocks with his coach John Singleton, I believe 2 weekends ago. So Morris has really been keeping busy. He looks really good. He looks like he's happy. Obviously, you've talked to him. He's a very outgoing, very intelligent man. Wears his heart on his sleeve, as most people know, and probably one of the best huggers out there.
Well, just because they're from South Africa doesn't mean they live in South Africa. If I run into them, I'll try to find out some more information about those guys. But it is a very international field, and there's certainly some athletes we're going to learn about this weekend. If you look in the group, kind of right behind those guys, you see Anasis Artemis. He's definitely an up-and-coming guy from Greece. Georgia Juric is the defending champion of this competition, actually, and he has been a friend of the Dukic's for a long time. He competed in Fall Series Throwdown last December, so you may have seen him there if you regularly watch the stuff that we do. Augie Velishnik is the fittest man in Croatia. Huge impact on his community there. Huge personality. I promise you'll see some emotion and some excitement from him this weekend on the stream. Win, lose, or draw, he never is short of energy. And he paired with Rock Dirknovic, who I think is the fittest man in Slovenia at the Athens Throwdown team division there. They actually, pretty sure they beat Yorgos Kervis and Anasis Artemis. It was a really impressive performance.
Wow.
This group is kind of like, it's an interesting one. Even the guys right behind that, Aaron Yailev, he shows up from Turkey. He can make some noise. Alexander Blosic, we've seen before. He's really good at some of the bodyweight stuff, and he's getting a little bit stronger. If you watch Bilbao, he reminds me a little of Arnau Sabate, where he can potentially win like a gymnastic style workout like the fifth one is. And if he's able to kind of just mitigate some of the other ones against a pretty deep field, 30 plus guys, he can lurk around that top 10. Henrik is a wild card in the individual field, but I would say events one, the longer machine and the heavy lift, will be probably his worst events. And the other ones, I wouldn't be surprised if he has some surprising performances. And Misha Papak, who surprised me in Athens Throwdown, he finished second there. He's probably similar. Outside of those two events, look for that guy to put up some good scores whenever his heats roll around.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see Henrik. Even though he, he's made the games on numerous teams. He didn't go to the game. He couldn't find a team this year, but just basically trained down at Peak 360. He was the alternate on the team, but he basically could train like an individual for the first time in a long time. And then now him and Matilda are kind of, Matilda is going to go back to individual. I don't know what Henrik's plans are, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gave individual a shot. It's been a long time since we've had a very, a Norwegian individual athlete. I think probably 2019. So,
Bilo Dal, I think, was the last male. And I mean, of course, there's Victor Helstinghoff, who's kind of coming, and he qualified for Dubai again, but he hasn't been able to break through at that level. So, absolutely, it could be a potential for that.
And then anyone on this further down that we have any information on that you think has a potential winning event or surprising besides Keegan Muir?
Charalampos Pavlidis, we saw him in Fall Series Throwdown last year. I think he had a top 3 finish on the kind of long endurance event. I spoke to him at check-in today. Look for him on events 1 and 3. I don't know if he's on the screen right now, but Noah Miles, it might say Noah Aaron Lee Miles. He's got 4 names, but I think he goes by Noah. He was on the flight with me over from Europe. He competed at the Cyprus Games. He's the type of guy that's like chest to bar pull-ups, thrusters, handstand push-ups. So he might do well on some stuff like that. There he is. Spyros Dragonis was at Fall Series Throwdown. He's sort of in that same boat with Noah. But there's some guys that will be like probably a little bit lower down on the leaderboard overall, but they could have some big performances. Those are a few of them that jump out to me. And then I met this guy that's at the bottom from Bulgaria today, and some of the people that were with him. His name was in Bulgarian, which it looks like Russian to me, which is not a language. It's not Latin letters. I actually sent it to a friend of ours who was able to translate to get his actual name here, and I found his Instagram account today. 260 followers, 0 posts, complete unknown. So we'll see.
And that's
But they were like, oh, you're streaming it. That's great. So that guy found B.Friendly Fitness on YouTube, and they're going to post it for his community back in Bulgaria. So we may have some people from Bulgaria watching, which is amazing. And it's awesome that he's here.
Speaking of which, we are streaming it all weekend, all 3 days, all the elite events. Brian will be in the broadcast booth. And so looks like 2 events each day, like you said, Friday and Saturday. These are all local time, I believe.
Yes, and man,
So it'd
dude, the time zones on this trip have been completely wild, but it is almost 10 o'clock here, and it's almost 4 o'clock in the east coast of the US. So that's 6 hours difference if you're in like New York or anywhere up and down the East Coast, 7 hours if you're in the Midwest, 9 hours if you're on the West Coast. And that means that it's 8 hours if you're
Brian there. Yeah. So tune in to B.Friendly Fitness. We'll be streaming all the elite divisions, as you can see, stacked men's and women's field, 2 events each day. The final event hasn't been released yet, but like you said, the event 1 looks like it's just a long chipper. Biker, double unders, rowing, just older machines. Something that I think Lazar would love, because he's probably one of the better double unders, and I definitely see Luca doing really well in that event. Event 2, a little bit more gymnastics grippy. You got toes to bar, hang, dumbbell snatches, and then overhead walk and lunge. So a lot of shoulder and grip there. It looks a very aggressive time cap at 6 minutes. And it looks like the tie break is in the 50 toe to bar. So whoever finishes gets off the bar first. So do you anticipate someone going all 50?
Somebody posted something and said unbroken ? I don't think it makes sense to. There's definitely a grippy component of this. The double dumbbell hang snatch is very variable how much it'll affect the athletes and how long they want to hang on to that. But I think that breaking on the toes to bar will make sense.
Yeah. That closes up day 1, Saturday, event 3 for time. We have burpee box jump overs, wall balls, deadlift, chest to bar. So we got another just basically another chipper, seems like, just up and down.
Well, I spoke to the competition organizer, and he's very well aware that this is a very difficult workout. This is going to be a nasty one. You're going to have to hurt on this one.
Yeah, it definitely looks like with a 15-minute time cap. Obviously, with the burpee box jump overs, that could definitely get that heart rate spiked. And this is going to definitely be an assault on your central nervous system here. Ending the day with a max clean and jerk. So 6 minutes, I guess that allows them possibly 5 to 6 lifts there if they're lucky. So a max clean and jerk. Starting off Sunday.
I don't think it'll be that many lifts.
You never know. They might do a couple light ones to warm up in. You never know.
True.
I would do 6. I'd always use my first 2 rounds of my warm up. Especially if you're sitting around. I don't know how long corrals are there, or if it's pretty immediate. But I would always do my first 2, and then my last 4, I'd try to go for it. Starting off Sunday, the final day, looks like a 2-2-3 minute interval. So we haven't seen one of those in a while. Those interval type of workouts. Pistol squats, 10 wall facing handstand push-ups, which we never did get to talk about the handstand push-up complex, but I really do like the wall facing handstand push-ups. It really exposes a lot of athletes.
Do you mean from Rogue? There was a standard that I was not aware of. There was a nuance of that workout that I have found out. In case anyone was wondering about it, that they, upon getting to the tape line, they actually had to establish a vertical position before going into the first rep. So it was to avoid, basically to get into the finishing position before going into the first position. And I know, I know that Alex Kazan got a bunch of no reps for that in her workout there. And that's one of those things you talked about. Like, that standard was not publicized, so nobody else could really know that. The athletes knew that. There were other athletes that were also being no rep for getting into that position that were able to adapt quickly and then figure it out. And it just ended up being kind of a tough one for her to either figure it on the fly. But I don't think that's a standard here. This workout is that's pretty high skill gymnastics in each, just as a buy into each one, and then to have, to follow it up with kind of a handstand walk race. So I think you're going to see huge separation on this one.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime you have intervals, you're going to have someone that probably comes out too hot, and then just fades away. Especially with, I think you're going to see, especially when you start seeing people failing some legless rope climbs. The shoulders
I
are
mean,
going to
look,
be.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. I've watched a lot of competitions, elite, the athletes program, legless rope climbs, and the judges have to be on top of them. The athletes, there's some athletes that are amazing at legless rope climbs, and it looks amazing. And if you're not, then the athletes will, even without meaning to, I'm convinced of this, will try to leg clamp to cheat and work their way up. It's so hard and it's so frustrating when you're aerobically fit enough to do something and your muscular fatigue won't do it. So I'm calling out the judges this week and all going forward. If legless rope climbs are programmed for elite, watch those legs and call the no reps. It's not okay to let them get away with that when other people are doing the movement the way it's supposed to be done.
Challenge is set by Brian. It's a good thing you know a lot of those judges there. Again,
believe me, I've
with the
already
intervals,
told them.
Again, 1 minute rest between each sets, time caps 12 minutes, and then we have a final yet to be announced. But it's going to be a tribute workout dedicated to Lazar. So we're going to start with the tribute, and then of course end with probably not only a workout in honor of Lazar, but also probably another tribute at the end, and probably a lot of emotions. So that's Belgrade Games. Kind of a quick run through. Again, will be shown on our Instagram channel starting tomorrow. So
YouTube
a lot of
channel.
action.
Oh,
Our YouTube channel. Yeah. It's cool because the last workout. Not only will it be shown on our YouTube channel, but there's a Serbian television station, sports station that will be showing that workout live throughout the country, I believe, right?
Yeah, so Arena TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is one of the sponsors there. Something also to keep a lookout for, because with our partnership with Circle 21 for this broadcast, you'll probably be seeing some cool stuff, some new innovative ideas, some neat stuff. Let us know in the comments what you think of that stuff. So we'll have some cool stuff, whether it be graphics, scoreboards, live scoring, stuff like that. So that's all made possible by Circle 21. And hopefully you guys like that. If you do, then hopefully we can integrate that in future things.
Dude, I finally met Nemanja in person today. He has a phenomenal beard.
Yeah, a beard.
Yes, it's so good.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He really is a good dude. Real cool guy. Very smart. Very business minded, and yeah, he's just a really cool guy. Speaks great English. He's just a good dude. Like you mentioned, Elfit is going on this weekend as well, so it gives us another point, another measuring point. This past weekend, we had 4 events going on. I was able to kind of like do a recap with that by grabbing leaderboards and show that off. I'll probably do the same this week. Elfit actually does have their first day of competitions out of the way. Some familiar names, Women Elite, Camila, who you might know. Well, some of you might know. I know Brian knows her. I know her. She's been a part of some teams out of Russia. And she's currently in first, followed by Jessie Smith. Jessie Smith ended up taking the invite.
If you're trying to show the leaderboard, it's not showing right now.
It's not showing. Oh, 1 second. There we go.
I'm gonna have to go in about a minute, but Camila Takaeva actually won a competition against Karen Frey this offseason. So she's been pretty impressive in the performances she's been doing. And you look at Jessie Smith in this roster and you think she's going to win it. Camilla's proven to be quite a challenger. The girl who's in third is one of the 7 women that competed at Eurasia Throwdown last year. She's from Russia. Maria is her first name. Russo is her last name, actually. And she's not the strongest, but when on the cardio stuff and the gymnastics stuff, she's pretty good.
Yeah, and on the men's side, before we let you go, if it ever pulls up, but our boy Ruan from South Africa is currently the leader there, followed by it won't pull up, but I do remember him being
Lynn, if you watch the regular live stream, you won't be able to see anything. There's nothing. I tried to watch. There's nothing there. If you have the premium stream, you might be able to, and if you do, I would like to know. So let me know.
Yeah. So But yeah, that's our quick preview of the Belgrade Games. Brian has to go. He has, in Serbia, you do not want to miss dinner. Otherwise, you don't eat. And that's what he has to do, a late dinner for him. But and some final planning for tomorrow. So, yeah, we'll let Brian go. Again, thanks to everyone for coming in the chat. Brian will be on the broadcast. Make sure you send him some love and ask him all the questions that annoyed the hell out of him this weekend. Thanks to HCR CBD and Strike Movement for again sponsoring us. Way we can do all this fun stuff and present all this stuff to you from all around the world. So with that being said, everyone, be friendly, our friends.